let us write up a note about right to control, what we have just discussed. To assess whether a contract conveys the right to control the use of an identified asset for a period of time, an entity shall assess whether throughout the period of use the customer has both of the following. First, the right to obtain substantially all of the economic benefits from use of the identified assets, and the right to direct the use of the identified asset. Friends, first write up these points and then we go deeper into this discussion. Alright friends, you would have finished writing this whole thing. Let us move ahead and write something more about right to control. So first thing over here is, the right to control the use of an asset may not necessarily be documented in form as a lease agreement. Often, the right to use an identified asset is embedded in an arrangement that may appear to be a supply arrangement or a service contract. A reporting entity should consider all of the terms of an arrangement to determine whether it contains a lease. If the customer has right to control the use of an identified asset only for a portion of the term, the contract contains a lease for that portion of the term. So friends, write down these points as well. Alright friends, you would have finished writing this whole thing. Let us move ahead and now apply these concepts on some questions, and let us begin with question number 9. ABC Limited enters into a contract with XYZ Limited which grants ABC Limited exclusive rights to use a specific grain storage facility over a 5-year period in the months of May and June. During these months, ABC Limited has a right to decide which crops are placed in storage and when to remove them. XYZ Limited provides the loading and unloading services for the warehouse activities. During the other 10 months each year, XYZ Limited has the right to determine how the warehouse will be used. Which party has right to control the use of the identified asset during the period of use? So now it is clear that during the months of May and June, it is the customer which is controlling the asset. That is, customer is deciding how to use the asset, how and when, how and in what manner. So we can say one thing very clear, that during the months of May and June, the asset is being controlled by the customer, whereas the other months, other 10 months, the asset is controlled by the supplier. Now they have asked the last line as, which party has the right to control the use of the identified asset during the period of use? So let us see how to write up the answer. In the above case, ABC Limited has the right to control the use of the identified asset during the period of use because they have the power to determine how the warehouse will be used during the contractually defined usage periods. The analysis should focus on the rights and economics of use of warehouse for the specified usage periods, that is just May and June. So friends, first you write up this paragraph and then we write up the other parts of the answer. Alright friends, after writing this paragraph, let us write up the other part of the answer, where we would say, during the period of use, ABC Limited has the rights to determine how much of a crop to place in storage and the timing of placing and removing it from storage. These rights are more significant to the economics of the use of the asset than the loading and unloading services performed by XYZ Limited during the same period. ABC Limited receives all of the economic benefits from the use of the asset during those specified time periods. Therefore, contract contains a lease for the specified period of term, that is all the years, but only during the months of May and June. Definitely the contract contains a lease. So write up this also, and that will be end of the answer. Alright friends, after writing up this answer, let us now talk about what could be different ways through which the customer obtains economic benefit from the use of the asset. Number one, the asset could be capable of producing some goods or services which can directly benefit the customer or the lessee. Secondly, any kind of byproduct or some ancillary services that can be obtained in the course of using the asset, even that can be benefiting the lessee. Third, the lessee can sublease the asset to a third party and draw some rental income out of that. So the manner in which the economic benefit can be generated out of the use of the asset can differ, but the benefit directly or indirectly has to flow to the lessee. Let us write up these points. A customer can obtain economic benefits either directly or indirectly by using, holding or subleasing the asset. Economic benefits from use of an asset include the asset's primary outputs, that is goods or services, any byproducts including potential cash flows derived from these items, benefits from using the asset that could be realized from a commercial transaction with a third party, for example, subleasing the asset. So friends, note down these points and then we shall take the discussion ahead. So friends, we are talking about right to control, and one of the condition of right to control was customer should be capable of, or lessee should be capable of, deriving all the economic benefits from the use of the assets during the period of the lease. And here when we say right to control, there may be a conflict in this point. So just understand, imagine a situation where for its own protection the supplier has placed some restrictions. For example, the supplier has specified that the asset cannot be used beyond these many number of hours, or the asset cannot be used beyond the boundaries of this country. For its own protection, the lessor can specify certain conditions, and these are the rights of the lessor and obligation of the lessee, that the lessee should not override the same. Now, can it consider as a conflict with respect to right to control? The answer is no. These are in fact considered as protective rights of the lessor. That means the supplier of the asset can retain some protective rights, provided these protective rights should be very clearly mentioned at the inception of the lease. Let us write a note about protective rights of the supplier. A right that solely protects the supplier's interest in the underlying asset. For example, limits on the number of miles a customer can drive a supplier's vehicle does not in and of itself prevent the customer from obtaining substantially all of the economic benefits from use of the asset, and therefore are not considered when assessing whether a customer has right to obtain substantially all of the economic benefits. So this is a very important point, that protective rights of supplier should not be considered while assessing whether a customer has right to obtain substantially all of the economic benefits from the asset. So friends, take note of this point and then we shall move ahead. So that was the note about protective rights of the supplier. Now friends, when we are talking about right to control the use of the asset, I have told you that customer or the lessee should fulfill two conditions. Condition number one was that the customer should be capable of deriving all the economic benefits or substantially all economic benefits for itself. And the second condition was the lessee or the customer should be capable of directing the use of the asset. So right to direct the use of asset is the second point that we have yet to discuss. So right to direct the use of asset. So it is the customer who should have right to direct the use of the asset. What does that mean? First of all, how the asset will be used, for what purpose the asset will be used, whether the asset will be used or not, when and where the asset will be used, all these decision making rights should be with the lessee or the customer. If the customer has all these rights, you can say that the customer has the right to direct the use of the asset, and indirectly you can say that the customer has right to control the asset. So friends, most important keywords over here is how and for what purpose. So how and for what purpose should not be read as two distinct criterias. This has to be read as one single concept. That means how the asset will be used and for what purpose the asset will be used are not two different factors. They are always to be read together. Now, sometimes a contract may have a predefined conditions. That is, the asset will be used in this manner. That means the manner in which the asset will be used has been predetermined in the contract. Then how would you decide whether the customer has the right to direct the use of the asset? Then also Ind AS 116 provides two conditions. First point over there is customer should operate or direct others to operate. That means either the customer should operate the asset or customer should direct other parties with respect to how to operate the asset, or the customer should design the asset. Even if any one condition out of these two is fulfilled, you can say that the customer has the right to direct the use of the asset. So friends, please take note of all these important points, and one by one I shall display these on the screen. So we are talking about right to direct the use of the identified asset. We can say a customer has the right to direct the use of an identified asset whenever it has the right to direct how and for what purpose the asset is used throughout the period of use. Now this concept of how and for what purpose an asset is used is a single concept. I explained you already, you cannot separately decide how an asset is used or for what purpose the asset is used. This always has to be applied in conjunction as a single concept. Secondly, the focus should be on whether the customer has decision making rights that will most affect the economic benefits that will be derived from the use of the asset. So friends, quickly take note of these points and then we shall move ahead. Alright friends, you would have finished writing this whole thing. Let us move ahead and write something more about this. Ind AS 116 provides the following examples of decision making rights that grant the right to change how and for what purpose an asset is used. First, the right to change the type of output that is produced by the asset. Second, the right to change when the output is produced. Third, the right to change where the output is produced. And fourth, the right to change whether the output is produced and the quantity of that output. And one last point over here is a supplier's protective rights in isolation do not prevent the customer from having the right to direct the use of an identified asset. So we have already talked about these protective rights earlier. So protective rights cannot prevent the right of control. Similarly, they cannot prevent the right to direct the use of the identified asset. So friends, quickly take note of these points and then we shall move ahead. Alright friends, you would have finished writing this whole thing. Let us move ahead and write up something more. In cases where the decisions about how and for what purpose an asset is used are predetermined, a customer has the right to direct the use of an identified asset throughout the period of use when either the customer has the right to operate the asset or direct others to operate the asset in a manner it determines throughout the period of use without the supplier having right to change those operating instructions, or the customer has designed the asset or its specific aspects in a way that predetermines how and for what purpose the asset will be used throughout the period of use. So friends, write up these points as well, and that will be end of the discussion on right to direct the use of the asset.